Call to order the meeting of the Lake Mill City Council for May 5th, 2015. Please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Misty, roll call, please.
To let you know that Mrs. Fritsch did let me know ahead of time that she wouldn't be here this evening.
During Europe.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Grundon?
Here.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Here.
Mr. Shar?
Here. Corrections and/or approval of the city council minutes for April 21st, 2015. Do I hear a motion of acceptance?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Grundon?
Abstain.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
Correspondence, we'll start with you, Steve.
I think we all got the letter from Lilac Springs. It was mailed to my house, and then, I had conversations, people approached me, and I approached some people about the water boil, but I think we'll be talking about that anyhow. So that was the discussion this week.
Ed?
Thank you. I had a dam conversation with one constituent, wondering when the construction on the waterway would begin. Of course, the boil water conversations were going on. And Steve, a question for you. Resident on Madison Street would like to know when approximately the work would begin on Madison Street.
We haven't had a pre-con yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
They have a timeline when they have to have it done.
It's scheduled for this summer, but that's all we know, right, at this
Yeah,
point?
it has to be done between the end of school and the start of school. That's all I know.
Okay, and will the same person was wondering whether they'd be able to get into their driveway? Are they going to have to park on side streets and walk a half a block, kind of, if they're in the center?
Very unlikely. It'll probably take them a day to mill it, or two, and then a day or two to pave it. But while they do it, generally within 2 hours, you can drive on it again. So it's pretty unlikely that you're not going to be able to. There may be times throughout the course of the day where you can't drive on it. So you might want to, when they start, you might want to get off, park your car around the corner if you need to get out quickly for some reason. But generally, at night, you should be able to get in, and in the morning, get out.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, Mike?
I had the letter also from Lilac Springs. And then I did have a conversation concerning something about an ice cream truck with Mr. Doyle. And I don't have a whole lot more information on that, just that people are starting to talk, and I don't know what's going on.
Does anyone have any insight to that?
I heard the same conversations along with, on market day, Wednesdays, farmers market days, there was apparently a movement to have businesses put stuff out on the street, like a Maxwell Street kind of idea with tables, and then the possibility of people setting up in grassy spots on other properties downtown, try to capture the traffic. And a lot of that is good, it's just that we have to, I think, make sure that we don't have law-abiding citizens breaking our city ordinances. So I think that's something that will need to be addressed in the future if it occurs.
Okay, maybe we'll save that for,
When it happens, cross that bridge when we get to it.
Vicki, do you have?
I've been working with Katie Otto of the Main Street program to clear up any confusion or misinformation about all of those topics, and I think we got it pretty well figured out now.
Okay. And I had the same correspondence, and then also some correspondence about the boil order, but we'll get to that later on. Questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items that are on the agenda unless that item is the subject of a public hearing. If your comments pertain to a public hearing, you are asked to hold your comments until the hearing. Public comments may be also made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state opens meeting law discourages action by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments and sign in on the sheet provided at the podium. Do we have any public comments at this time? I went through all that again for no reason. Oh, man. Okay, well, item 6 is the city manager's report. Steve, we'll turn that over to you.
I did want to note that we did get an email. All of us should have got an email from Citizens for a Better Environment. And I gave that email to Misty to put on record. Okay. Congratulations to the Lake Mills Area School District for the Green Ribbon School Award for the Lake Mills Elementary School. Stormwater detention on Circle Drive has been complete. I think that they are finalizing, but it's substantially complete. There's some asphalt paving that's going on and some grass seeding. Stormwater on Fargo is nearly complete, so they've run that from Owen Street up to Browns Court. And Browns Court will be starting shortly, probably in the next 2 weeks.
Good.
So, new light and water building will be substantially complete next Friday, which means they'll be turning it over to them and they'll start moving in. John McGivern is coming to Lake Mills apparently. Do you know who he is?
Public television, yeah, does cities,
Yeah, he does Around the Corner,
that's right.
which is a TV show that basically looks at cities and some of the interesting features about them. So he's coming here, see if he can find the eccentric people. I think he's already started with
Plenty of those.
A reminder that May 27th is the First Impressions meeting here, where we will go over the First Impressions report with the City Council. I'd also like to schedule some budget work sessions prior to finalizing my parts of the budget. See if there's some issues that we want to work through. I sent you the wastewater treatment report and inspection recently. And I think I may have given you another hard copy tonight, but I know you have those copies and the issues that are going on with the wastewater treatment plant and the problems that we're having and compliance issues. And we're going to have to start working pretty hard to license and follow up on some of the local businesses. I did provide you with some additional information tonight. I provided you with the report from the Oshkosh MPA's report. I provided you with the dashboard information for the first quarter. Some other financial data, the bill listing and that. So, other than that, are there any questions?
Steve, when was the first impressions report to the city council?
I think it's May 27th.
And that will be a work session?
Yes.
And then it being a work session, it will not be televised, but it would be open so public could come and hear that. And the first impressions is that we had an exchange program with the city of Prairie du Chien, and we gave them a first impression of their city. A delegation went over, and they sent a delegation here. So people are wondering what first impressions is. It's their first impression of our city and what's working and what tips they could give us to improve.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'm done.
Okay, going to acceptance of committee minutes. We have the joint Rock Lake Committee for minutes of February the 3rd, 2015, the LD Fargo Library minutes of March 16th, 2015, and the LD Fargo special meeting minutes of April 6, 2015. They'll go on record as read. Item 8, council business. Item A is board committee appointments. Missy, would you read those?
The ones that you'd be reappointing?
Yes, reappointments.
Robin Wolf, Public Works Board. Douglas Fritsch, Public Works Board. Peter Lynch, Plan Commission. Wayne Magnuson, Plan Commission. Vicky Wycliffe, Parks Board. Todd Temperley, Zoning Board of Appeals and Economic Development Board. Karen Busimi, Library Board. Gerald Ostreich, Housing Authority. Pamela Lazaris, Ethics Board. Pamela Rogers, Ethics Board.
Do I hear a motion of approval of,
That'd be confirmation, and I'll make such a motion, Mr. President.
and a second?
I'll second.
And roll call, please.
Mr. Kirkovich.
Aye.
Mr. Shar.
Aye.
Mr. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Grundon.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
And we have one city manager appointment, that was Greg Wirtz for the Police and Fire Commission, and that will be expiring in 2020. And we have
Three.
three.
Should have one mailed to you.
Okay, Missy, would you read those applicants for tavern operator license?
Paula Ann Reuter, Jessica Mosier, and Stephen Bruckert.
Motion to approve.
And a second, please.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Shar.
Aye.
Mr. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Grundon.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
And we're going to have a discussion on the South Main Street detour. This is motion 15-5-1-1. Missy, if you would, please.
Motion 15-5-1-1, authorizing the city manager to work with state agencies to get a local detour route for the 2018 State Highway 89 project. Whereas the state of Wisconsin has the authority to select the detour routes during state highway improvements, and whereas if the detour stays on state highways, Wisconsin DOT will repair any damage caused by the extra detour traffic. If the detour is on city, county roads, the city or county will have to take care of any damage caused by the detour route. And whereas the Wisconsin DOT indicates that the state highways would include Interstate 94, State Highway 26, and US Route 18. And whereas the city believes that the Wisconsin DOT detour will hurt local business and encourage traffic to seek undesignated detour alternatives. And whereas the largest detour maintenance will fall to the city. And whereas many potential visitors will avoid Lake Mills businesses. And whereas the council finds it desirable and appropriate to request that the state designate and maintain a detour route with realistic transportation expectations rather than pure cost savings. Now therefore be it moved that the City of Lake Mills City Council hereby authorizes staff to work with the governor, our state senator, and legislator to have the Secretary of Wisconsin Department of Transportation designate and/or construct a detour route for the State Highway 89 improvement in the city of Lake Mills.
Your motion of adoption.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
And this is, I mean, if it wasn't so ludicrous, it would almost be funny what the DOT is proposing, basically detouring the city, I don't know how many miles south, and then coming back up north to get to the south part of the city.
Can Steve put the map up?
Put the map up, yeah.
I don't actually have a map of the,
Do you have the one with, there's the.
that's the County Highway V to B to Q 89 route.
Yeah.
I couldn't,
All right then.
We could use a detour on the sound system.
you got it, Dave?
Okay, continuing on.
So the other one was so big, I couldn't actually get it on any map that I had.
Yeah. So basically what we're gonna try to look at is to get some state monies to get a more realistic detour around the south part when the highway or South Main Street project starts in 2018. That will, number one, have a reasonable access to that end of the city and that part of our fire district and EMS district to provide services to our citizens there, as well as commute, getting back and forth for the people that live on the south part of town. And that's really is kind of a extension of CP Avenue, which is already on the master plan, so it's nothing that anybody really dreamed up, but we're gonna try to get it done a little sooner if we can get some public or state support, monies wise anyways. And so basically this is authorizing the staff to work with the legislature and the state to try to get some monies to get that project going. So,
As I
Ed?
read through the notes, not just the detour being a 22-mile route to get 2 miles, but also it said in there, I mean, it was possible they were just gonna black out the exit on 89.
Yeah.
So I actually tried to contact Senator Fitzgerald and Representative Clyfish and just wanted to talk about that, but that also was, I mean, is that a possibility?
Well, I wish Katie were here because Katie and Kate and I went and visited Wanakee, and they said they were shocked when that happened, that they actually,
Katie is here.
It was closed.
Is that,
and so that was the conversation we had, right? Is that they blacked it out and they refused to take it off. And they ran a route, the state route went way out, up to DeForest and way around.
And so it looked like it was actually a closed exit. If
Yes,
you got off, there was nothing there, even though all of our businesses would be running.
right. So basically, if you're driving down the highway, you do, and it's blacked out, you don't want to take the risk of getting off the highway at a point where it's blacked out. And there's a pretty good reason for doing that. And the fact is that if they don't do that, then they take the exact opposite criticism, which is you didn't black it out, everybody drove through the city, they tore up all our city streets, now you're responsible for fixing them. And so the state is caught between a rock and a hard space. You know, if they don't put it on there, then we're gonna blame them for all the damage in our city streets and we're gonna want them to pay for it. If they do put it on and they run people on, you know, try and do everything they can to run people on the route they have, then they can claim that they have less responsibility for the vehicles and the wandering around city streets. Now, you know, when we had the Highway 89 project, where they did the culvert, we had semi-trucks running down Grove, Jefferson, and East Lake Park Place. And those streets aren't designed to take that kind of traffic. And at that time, their detour route was 94 to 26 to 18. So we're kind of in a position where it will be difficult to get the people who might have gotten off to come to Lake Mills because the sign is blacked out. So at least for a while, you can have it. For a week, the people who are used to coming to Lake Mills are gonna may use it. And then after that, they're gonna start trying to figure out how to get through Lake Mills. And then there's a possibility they'll be tearing up every street in the city trying to figure out how to get through Lake Mills.
I got a number of thoughts and questions. First of all, Steve, in reading through the four different options, we haven't talked about the four options or six options, as we read through in that, my question is, who are we trying to bring into town? It's not the semi-traffic, and I thought, Rudy, that you were going to go with, you said the irony of it was what you and I were trying to do to get the trucks to go down to 94, the big extra heavy loads and stuff, and go down, and DOT was fighting us on it. Now they turn around and say that's the actual detour route that they were going to take, and there's real irony in that, because we fought for what, 4 or 5 years on trying to get through our State Highway 89 not be the big heavy traffic. Can we, Steve, get both the best worlds, which is to take the heavy semi-traffic that is not having a local dump site here, their unload site, send them down to 26 and down 26 and back 18 or wherever they're headed down, to Janesville on 26. Run that detour that way, but have our city open for local loads, meaning you've got a grocery truck coming into town, or you've got a restaurant truck coming into town to the Chinese restaurant, that type of thing. Local tankers bringing fuel to the gas stations. So they're allowed to come in, and then you have the auto traffic coming in. If a truck is going through town, they have to have their papers in order of where it is. Local police can certainly pull the truck over to see where their destination point is. If it's not a destination point in Lake Mills, they can be fined for not following the detour to down to 26 on 94 to the east. Then we're bringing into town the people who are going to likely do business in town, because through traffic, trucking traffic is not doing business in town. So you're bringing in the people that would normally come in. You're allowing for commuting, if that is to bring them in and take them over by Brookstone and take them down Harvey Road to 89, using that as a detour.
Well, you've covered a whole different spectrum of issues here, and first of all, what we had worked on was overweight, oversized, which at one point in time, we thought we were a designated overweight, oversized route. We are not. They now run them.
But can we not stop all the through traffic during this construction for semis
No, you
and
cannot.
other truckers?
You cannot unless they're oversized, overweight, or they're off truck routes. So if they're off a truck route, yes, you can stop them. But you're going to have to have a lot more police officers on a lot more time.
But can the state not designate that truck traffic has to go down to 89 unless it's doing a local deposit? They have to go down they have to go down to 26.
The only way they do any designation on traffic is two ways. When they're oversized, overweight, they get permits and they give them a route.
Yeah, but this is due to construction, I'm saying. So there you got the exception that's due to the state highway being tore up, i.e. South Main Street.
It still wouldn't prevent them. They could come through Lake Mills. They can use County Highway B, County Highway V. The second they start wandering through other places, I mean, those are designated truck routes and they can be used. The state doesn't designate or tell them that they can't come through those routes. So basically, once they start wandering through the city, then you got to capture them and say, hey.
But has there been any discussion in having a dual detour, a detour for truck traffic and a detour for auto traffic? You see what I'm saying there? If we had a detour for auto traffic, Harvey Road,
I anticipate
that allows
that's
commuters and all that to move through,
I've
but the truck
anticipate
traffic
that's-
gets chased down to 26.
Yeah, I have anticipate that's been tried before and failed.
Well, not only that, how do you
How do you
enforce
do
something
that?
like
Yeah.
that? Because here we're trying to get truck traffic out of the city, but then the onus for enforcing is going to be on the township. The other thing is that the big issue is that unlike when we did North Main, where we had multiple routes that could be taken, South Main, there's only one. There is only one route. And to get emergency traffic down that route during construction is going to be impossible. And if you had a business like the feed mill, you know, a fire or an emergency out there. How are we gonna get to that? By driving, how many miles are we gonna have to drive?
But
to
building
get-
CP Avenue is not going to help that. You can go over to Harvey Road and Harvey Road down and right back up. It's a little further, but not that much.
If you go CP Avenue, it'll be a short route.
Well, the first issue that we talked about and we shot out there was Harvey Road was not Harvey Road. Harvey Road couldn't handle it. It's a township road and they're not gonna let any truck traffic go on Harvey Road. It would go, V to B to Q.
Yeah.
And that was the first one we talked about, and the first reaction that the county had was, sure, we'll let you do that. But then you're gonna have to pay for all the repairs, which is $1.7 million. You basically have to rebuild all the streets once the traffic's done. When we did our analysis, 95% of the dollars we'd be spending would be in the county, not in the city. If you do CP Avenue, at least all the public improvements are on city streets. And that was why we kind of said, well, you know, those are the two routes we believe are the most reasonable. I mean, nobody's really going to consider taking
And that is in the that is on the master plan, if I remember right.
CP.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the master plan.
But my
It has been
concern
for
is
a
that
long
we've
time.
got a new utility building being built. We've got a redo of the existing one for parks and that. And and I don't see how you can build on the cost when you had that distance, buy the land and do all of that. How many millions of dollars is that going to be? I'm looking at the economic stress on the people of the city when we're doing all this. Plus, we've got you already mentioned earlier in the meeting on the wastewater treatment plant costs. If we can get a large amount of money from the state to help us with it, that's one thing, but we're totally going against what we've always done traditionally of build it as they come versus build it and hope they'll come.
I don't think it's about
so.
that.
And what are we getting? My question goes back to why
that
are we
is
doing it?
true.
So
I
we
mean-
can move the semis through? I understand bringing the cars into town, but why can't we bring the cars into town and prohibit the trucks from coming into town?
That you just can't, there's no way you can enforce that type of rule, and I don't think that would be possible. But even if, basically what you're going to try and do is enforce the no truck route. But you're going to be there 24/7 doing that, and you're still going to get trucks trying to find their way through the city. Or out to Harvey or Q, and whether it's our streets or their streets, it's still tearing something up. From the standpoint of, there's a lot of benefit to us in putting in our streets, there's a lot of benefit in having the industrial park have multiple accesses, but the cost is pretty substantial. If we don't get any help from the state, it's going to be a heavy economic burden with all the other things that we're going to have to take on, in my opinion. So we're trying to weigh the two issues. And that's why I've been asking, and at this point, the question is can we start working with the state guys to see how much money we can get? Because that really starts leveraging the question of where we're at.
Yeah.
Because if you can get, 40 or 50% of the money from the state, you got a pretty good deal.
As opposed to $1.7 million, you're not gonna get squat from the state for that. That's gonna be out of hide. And that's not even in our city.
So the question really becomes is if we can get the state to participate. If we can't, then we're into the discussion that Ed's into.
I agree with that.
And that is we're going to have to do a lot more economic analysis on, what it's going to cost in the long run and how much we're going to be carrying across all the boards and what we're willing to give up over the course of the next several years. I don't think you can give up East Lake Park Place because that's so critically tied into South Main Street. There are a couple projects we have going, Brewster, and maybe the year after that. We didn't spend a lot on from the general fund on South Main Street. It's about the same as what our normal projects are, but the water and sewer are heavy costs. So they're fee-based, they're not tax-based, but there's still costs there. So, we're trying to weigh all those, but I think if we get, I didn't want to start pushing the DOT and the legislators and all that until I had your support
publicly. If you got that and you send me out and tell me, see if you can, how much money you can get, this is the route we'd like to see put in place if we can get it, then that's what I'll start doing. And that's basically what this conversation is about tonight.
So, question then, as we look at motion 15511, my concern is that we approve this and then staff sees that or council sees that as a green light to go forward with the building of CP Avenue, no matter what millions it costs the taxpayer. And if this is only going to authorize talking to the state,
That's all it says.
That's all it says.
that's my concern.
You know, and
Without the state,
I'm all for seeing what the state would do to help CP, but to Ed's point, I mean, you know, if they don't help at all and we end up with just signage, how successful was Wanakee at getting vehicles into their town with just signage that said, you know, open to downtown businesses and whatever? And I know they spent $75,000 or $80,000 on signs. Did it help?
Yes, it helped. It helped a lot. They saw some drop in business, but not what you normally see on a construction project. But they did a lot. But they did complain pretty bitterly about the signage going up. So, and from our standpoint, you know, we also talked about Cross Plains, and we have a pretty good bit of information on what Cross Plains got, and they got a lot of assistance from the state on paying for alternate routes and setting up different options for them. And the traffic through the city was still pretty successful. They didn't do too bad downtown. They didn't do probably quite as well as Wanakee did. But Wanakee put a lot of effort into the downtown, put on a lot of special programs and you know, they had street dances and they had all kinds of events going on in town, and they got the vendors to give out special coupons for coming down at certain times, and they had a quite extensive program. But I think that they felt that the biggest loss that they had was the state detour route. So. And Cross Plains was highly successful at getting the dollars for their alternate route through the city.
well, you know, what Dot has proposed so far, to me, is just ludicrous. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. It just seems like there was, okay, here's a state route, here's a state route, those are the only ones we can use, this is what it's gonna be. It doesn't seem like there was any forethought for the citizens, any forethought for emergency traffic, or any type of just through traffic. You know, for me to have to drive all the way 22 miles to get to the feed store is just nuts.
And I'm pretty sure that they know that most of the locals aren't going to do that. I'm assuming that they're looking at traffic that might have stopped in Lake Mills or the truckers, and they're doing everything they can to get them to reroute. But truckers, their livelihood is based on the fastest, shortest route, so they're probably going to be looking quickly to see what their alternatives are. That's why I think it's in our best interest to at least investigate and push, you know, maybe a little bit harder than we normally would at the state level.
Okay, so just for clarification for the public, this motion is to authorize the staff to contact and work with the state government to try to get funding for a more convenient, reasonable,
Realistic.
realistic detour while the construction on South Main is going on in 2018. Do we have any more discussion?
Well, would that, and that wouldn't just include CP Avenue, that could include repairs to other roads that would be used, other alternatives? I mean, it would be CP Avenue, but it wouldn't have to be limited to that, would it? Your discussion with them? Or is that the only discussion you would have with them?
No, it has to be wide open. I would anticipate we'd have to be willing to take whatever we're going to have to
What options they have?
seek. I guess what we used to call it was satisficing, which is you sit down, you know what the city's best option is, you know what the state's best option is. Somewhere in between, there's a satisfactory position for both sides. It's not the greatest. And so I would be open to any suggestions that they had. You know, if they told me, well, you know, in 2020, we could come up with enough money to put the two programs together, would you be willing to wait the additional 2 years? Or, you know, I'm concerned that the road won't hold up that long. I mean, I'm surprised that the patches that we put on it the last time have done as well as they have. It was kind of an experimental option. So you kind of have to weigh and balance what they're going to bring you on. And their state funding is changing. You know, they don't have as much money as they used to either. And they're trying to, you know, there are a lot of other people trying to get that money. So it's going to be a situation where, you know, we're going to have to be willing to look at anything that they're willing to think about.
Anything else, Ed? No. Misty, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Good luck, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay, item D, discussion on the boil water order from the DNR. This one's got your name written on it, Steve.
Well, you read the report from Paul. A tree located along the bike spur south of the well, where there's no street, no houses, fell on a power line, created a surge. So first of all, that power was out probably longer than it normally would have been because it was hard to find. There's no specific indication of why that power would be out, and nobody saw it. And on a dead end out in the woods, basically, it hits a power line. So then the tree pulls down all three lines, creates a surge that hits the Public Works building, which has a brand-new phone system. So it blows the card up in the brand-new phone system, and so you can't make emergency calls in. So they get that repaired that day. And then the next morning, we find out that the surge also hit one of the cards in the system where the wells read the water tower. So that card is continuing to say there's 73% water in the water tower, and it was probably down to about 60. So we experienced some low water pressure. We called in at 8 o'clock in the morning to DNR, explained the situation to them, told them what our calculations were. They said, okay, thanks. And then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they called back and said, we think we want you to do a boil order. So at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we start putting together our package for a boil order. So you have to write up a notice, and then they approve it, and then you have to send it out. So industry standard would be that anything 40 homes or under, you would do door to door. Anything over requires TV and radio. So we did TV and radio. I know it went pretty well because everybody from Madison that knows me called me and asked me what was wrong with the Lake Mills water within hours of the notice from the DNR. We sent out a bunch of emails. We had people here answering phones up here and at the Public Works building. And we hit the industry standard for boil order. There were probably two things that I noted that I felt were substandard. One was the amount of information that the people who were answering the phones had, and a couple of notices that should have been sent out to critical customers. But other than that, I thought we hit the industry standard right on the nose as far as what was required of a boil order. We provided the information that was required in a boil order, and I listed that for you. There are 10 items that we have to have in there, and we hit all those. The EPA literally dictates who you have to use, and so radio and television, radio being the preferred method, and then posting in a couple locations. Depending on the population, you have to have notices in foreign languages if they hit a 5% level. I don't think that we have any that hit a 5% level. They did not ask us to do that. Paul sent out to one TV station and I think 3 radio stations. Later in the afternoon, Heather sent out to all the ones that have agenda requests at the city. So that was at least another 5 radio stations and 3 TV stations. So there was a lot of that type of coverage. A lot of local businesses picked up the notice that had gone on, like on Main Street and the Chamber, and so it went on like Brad Glassel's, Lake Mills Market, Century. They all had information up on it relatively quickly in the afternoon. And you could tell that the information was hitting quickly because the vast majority of phone calls came in between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock Thursday evening. We're not used to boil orders around here. It's the first one that I've ever seen here, and I haven't talked to anybody who's been involved in a boil order before. It's pretty unusual. I don't know that we actually hit conditions that did it, but for a precautionary situation, the DNR requested that we do it. There's states around us, like Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Indiana, and Ohio, who require every broken water main and every water line that you repair, you have to do a boil order. So they'll have 20 to 30 a year. And they generally have on hand little placards that go on a door handle. But they only do that, like I said, when they hit 40, if it's 40 homes or under. Otherwise, they go right to radio and TV. There are a couple more substantial systems, ones that we have been looking at, and I did mention in the memo. And we have been looking at a couple other options. I provided you the report that I got from the UWO Saturday. So it's something that we've been looking at, but generally for a standard operation of a city our size in Wisconsin, we did pretty good. I know that people felt that there were some issues, but going door to door would have taken, even if you included every employee in the city, would have taken 4 or 5 days. So it wasn't a better option. Radio is generally considered the best option available to the utility.
So we didn't have any main breaks. We had low pressure. The bacteria report that came back the next day was fine. So lessons learned is critical care, critical customers, hospitals, nursing homes. Well, we don't have any hospitals, but I guess
We don't have any hospitals. We have nursing homes and clinics. I think we got it out to the school pretty quickly. I don't know that they were included in the initial list, but they were included quickly. They're supposed to have their own emergency program, but I think they were like us. They probably had never seen one before, and so they were asking questions about what to do, and it was like, gee, I really don't know. But after a certain amount of time, we all kind of worked together and figured out what was going on and got things out there. But it was kind of a learning experience. But from the overall expectation, I felt that we did very well. There was just a couple items that we needed to work on, and you can see we got an emergency list now that's pretty substantial.
Steve, that'd be my question. Having gone through it for the first time, what has staff learned that you would then, hindsight looking back, we can use for the future should we be in the same situation for improving our system? And that's not criticizing what was done, that's just simply saying every time you have an event, you learn things. And
Yeah, well, improving our system in the technical sense
the
or
response,
the
in the response kind of thing.
We would have made, to a certain extent, most of the staff looked at it as a precautionary issue that the DNR wanted, so we would put out the information. I don't know that we anticipated the amount of callbacks. So preparing the telephone staff for what was going to occur would have been giving them the story to be able to give out and who to contact, where, what kind of contacts there were.
And we kind of had a delay in getting posters out in the windows, didn't we? That would be something that we
No,
could...
we got them out pretty
Right away.
quickly. This is the EPA report on how to do it. Okay, so, I mean, there's a lot of information that can go along with it depending on what the issues are. Generally, we didn't do too bad. The key one was going through and developing the emergency notification list and making sure that people who were on staff could direct people to the right spot or knew what the story was. Those are the two biggest issues I felt came out of it. People were complaining that we were late on the notice, but we were not late on the notice. We had 24 hours after the 2 o'clock deadline. We had it out by 3:30, and that's after writing the notice and having it approved by the DNR. So when you think about that, we got the list together, we prepared the notice, we had it approved, and we sent it out generally within an hour, hour and 15 minutes. That wasn't too bad. The fact that the event occurred at 5 o'clock in the morning, which was when most people were thinking about, okay, that's when I should have been noticed. And no, there was no decision from the DNR to notice until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We still think that it was extremely precautionary because we felt that the requirement is 20 PSI at ground level. And we believe that almost every place in the city was somewhere between 40 and 60 PSI. So I think that it was kind of an overreaction, but we did what we were asked. We performed. We did learn a couple things about where to go and what to do next. But I think a lot of people had a lot higher expectations than what the situation required. And, we've debated this issue multiple times in this community. How do you contact everybody? And I had the one guy who called me and said his son called him from Sun Prairie, telling him that he'd heard on the news that there was a boil order, and he complained he didn't have the internet, and how was he going to ever find out? And then the person on the on the internet saying you didn't tell me soon enough, and it was like, holy smokes. I mean, there were a lot of issues out there, and if it had been a type of emergency where it was like a siren, we have sirens for tornadoes. This wasn't that type of emergency. Maybe if we had talked about going door to door. We'll eventually provide you with some options that are called iPause. That's the federal system that goes through NOAA, and they have everybody's phone number somehow. I'm not sure how that happens. We are not allowed to have them unless they give them to us, unless we get them from the federal
I
government.
don't know anybody's phone number.
But then you have to buy a software package to manage the iPause.
Yeah.
And then that does robocalls for you. Or text.
Recess.
Anyways,
Well, Steve, Stepien, two things I wanted to bring up. One, this was a very low risk level. It was all due to pressure and the possibility of backflow, and the pressure, as you said, we were looking at probably 40, not the 20 that would be of concern. And it was our first time, so you get all the reactionary responses. So I just wanted to point out in the conversation, if people are watching about it, is that this was a very low risk to human health on the water, as I perceived it. And then the other is, did we put too much faith into our SCADA system that we should have learned that, in the future, don't trust the readings after you have a storm event or something, but actually physically check to make sure the system is working. I think that's a big thing to be learning out of this, because were we not trusting the computer too much, and they are not infallible, they do fail.
well, there are a couple issues there, and that's why I asked which system you were talking about, because,
I jumped us to technical.
yeah, you went to the notice system, and now we're to the technical, and, you know, when we did ours, when I did my first SCADA system, we still had a manual system on the tower that had a red light at the base of the tower that flashed, so that if the SCADA, if for some reason the computer system failed, the technical might work, and that flashing red light would irritate the residents there enough that they would call. And so, you know, we're looking into those types of things, but it was the same thing with the phone system. We got a brand new phone system. They made some changes. The guy who came in and did the programming made some changes on top of the changes that were there. And so there were a number of situations we couldn't figure out what was going on until we all sat down and said, what's the deal? And now we're trying to figure out how to work through, okay, what happens with this in the future, and how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? So those are technical issues that are coming in with new systems every time you look at them, as you get a little bit of experience with it, and you have to say, okay, what's the next best option for us? See where we can provide redundancy. Generally, for an organization that has to have emergencies, you know, it's like every building we have has a generator on it. There were a lot of people saying we didn't have generators. Every building we have has a generator on it. A lot of lift stations, which aren't even buildings, have generators on them. And we have the capacity to move generators around 2 sites. So we try and be as redundant as possible, but, you know, that phone system wasn't in a week. It was the first event we had ever had with the SCADA on a truly unique situation where the tree was able to pull all three cables to a point where they all broke at the same time and sent a specific type of charge up the line. It was kind of a unique set of circumstances, but we'll have to look at, you know, how to protect ourselves from that in the future.
And in reality, if anybody's ever gone swimming at the lake,
Well, one of the things I know I said, a lot of folks I talked to about notification, it was amazing because the majority of them either found out via Facebook or someone who had seen it on Facebook who told them about it. And so I was wondering if it's not, I mean, if for notification, you know, could we put something on the homepage where people can opt in to get a text? We can make just a group that's, if it's, you know, water boil or, you know, a street issue, or, you know, you want emergency info on Lake Mills, you could sign in for it, but you would have to opt in.
We had Nixle on our website for 10 years. Nixle is one of the national emergency notification systems. You click on the button, you put in your information, anything that we put in clicks out on that as an emergency notice. So you'll get it on your phone, your email. We had that 10 years on our website. We had 10 people sign up for it. 6 of them were city employees.
Well,
It's
now
not,
that
it's
we
not
just-
Facebook, though.
Yeah, but now that we just had a water boil, we've got people's attention. If we did it now, those that are concerned would sign up, and it would only be 10. I don't know.
My anticipation is that it'll go the wayside, you know, by the time we actually end up with another notice, their phone numbers will change, the people who, so the question is, and that's why we're, you know, I'm talking, if we gotta have some type of a system where we have to get a hold of people, the one I thought worked the best is we sent it out and all the businesses and people started putting it on their own Facebook pages. That saves us, because you know the legal issues that we have with Facebook pages. But if we put out a notice and they all put it on their Facebook, so Main Street, Chamber, any local business, any local person puts it on their Facebook, that's great. That's the best information system we could have, and that happened a lot. And the information traveled pretty fast through that system. For us, it would be, I checked with the school district, we can't use their notification systems, because those people give them their numbers specifically for specific instances, and so we can't. It's a privacy issue.
we can go through NOAA, and it can alert on the radio too, on the all hazards radio.
Yeah.
So that's an option that we have.
And but again, you'd have to be watching TV, and if you were watching any of the
They come
TV
over on your
stations,
radio.
yeah, But it was on all the local radio stations too. So, the,
I was gonna say, most people don't listen to radio. I can put my music right here.
you know, the research says that people still listen to radio
Number
2 hours
one.
a day. That the average for every single person in the United States is 2 hours a day, which shocked me.
It does-
That's why the report here says radio is the number one way to reach people.
Yeah, I've just heard in the last month, and I was like Steve, shocked that the radio was number one.
Amazes me, because I work with a lot of 20 and 28-year-olds, and I don't think they know what a radio is.
But
So
the iPause system does do kind of a robocall or text robo, and so it gets out, and that's an option. It's another one of those software packages where you got to pop up $5,000 initially, and then you got to pay $500 a month for as long as you have it. But then, so the question is where's the break even on that for one notification every 20 years?
I think one of the other issues that we really haven't talked about is when this happened at the 5 o'clock hour in the morning, where I've talked to quite a few people that were rather upset because they did call in and they did leave voicemails for the water folks saying, hey, what's going on with this pressure? Call me back at this and this. And they've still haven't received a call back.
You gotta remember too,
So-
and the public has to remember too, for every time you call a department like that, when there is an emergency, that requires a person that could otherwise be fixing that
Well,
emergency.
they have the staff, 24-hour staff to answer that.
But didn't you
But
say
it
there
wasn't
was,
working.
No, they don't have 24 hours
Who
staff
does?
to answer that.
Didn't you say
We have a
24-hour service? to
we have an
answer?
after-hours service,
Right,
but like I said, the phone system booted them out.
right,
So the calls weren't getting through to them.
right. But how long ago has this been now? And these people still haven't received a call back?
No, he just said, no, the calls never actually
So
got through.
no, they left a voicemail.
So where does that go? Where do they go?
So where's
I
the
don't know.
voicemail?
I don't know where that went, but Rudy's comment is relevant at this point, though. There was nothing getting through to the overnight phone service.
Right, no, we know that.
All our people are out trying to figure out where there was. I was out driving around, and Steve's wife saw me drive by.
Sure, and I understand that 100%. You got to fix the problem. But when it's been a week and these people are still waiting for an answer, what happened? Even if they've received all this information, they went through the effort to report it, we should at least give them the courtesy of giving them a call back. Because I went through that myself numerous times for a light that was out. It took me almost 6 months as a person on the council to get a street light fixed and to get a call back. That's uncalled for.
All right, we beat that one to death. Let's move on. This is, water main on CP Avenue. This is motion 15-5-1-2. Misty, would you read that one, please?
Motion 15-5-1-2, authorizing the city manager to proceed with the replacement of a section of the CP Avenue water main. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, pursuant to the authority conferred by the statutes of the state of Wisconsin, has established certain standards and procedures for the water distribution system within the corporate limits of the City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, and within 1 1/2 mile thereof. Whereas the City of Lake Mills established policies for maintenance of water distribution systems within the corporate limits. And whereas the City of Lake Mills wishes to replace a section of water main to reduce the number of main breaks in the water distribution system, reduce water loss, and protect the public health. And whereas the city staff have made recommendations concerning approval of said plans. And whereas the Public Works Board has reviewed the documents and determined that they are generally satisfactory and in the prescribed form. And be it therefore moved that the City of Lake Mills City Council hereby authorizes staff to prepare documents to complete the CP Avenue water main replacement in the City of Lake Mills, and does hereby authorize the council president to sign the motion.
You have a motion of approval? And a second?
Second.
Steve? think this was on the,
Public Works Board,
yeah,
and the Public Works Board recommended doing it. It's, it didn't make the, capital improvement plan. In fact, it's not anywhere on the capital improvement plan, in the next 5 years. Based on the age of the water main, it should last a lot longer,
yeah, I was gonna say,
which I noted in the memo that our expectation for the life of this water main would be a long time. We've experienced a lot of water main breaks here, and you guys have probably noticed it.
It's like 2-3 times a year.
Yeah, at least this year it was probably more than that. It appears that the soil there is corrosive enough, and that substation there probably, because if you notice, it's all right to the southeast edge of that, southwest edge of that substation. We're anticipating that it's a corrosion issue in the soil, and that the water main doesn't, usually when you get a freeze thaw, it shears it and cracks it in that form. This is popping holes in it like this. So we're anticipating that it's a corrosion issue, maybe based on the substation there. So we're recommending that we replace it this year, about 770 lineal feet of, I think it's 10-inch water main, right? And that we want to shift it to the east side of the street, out from under the pavement, and put in PVC, a heavy PVC water main rather than ductile iron, because of the corrosive nature of the area. And so the project we're looking at is $130,000. This is just permission to go out and bid it, not actually do the project yet. But because it wasn't in any budgets, it's going to require, that we add financing, and it's going to require that we do another bid and some more engineering. So I didn't want to do anything without council approval.
comments?
Do we have a way to find out really what's causing this? Can we do some soil samples? Can we make sure that nothing that is in the soil will cause something with the PVC also, maybe with the glues in the PVC?
The conditions that normally what we do on corrosive soils is bag the pipe, which is what we've historically done, which is basically using a plastic to protect the ductile iron. In this case, we're concerned that the soil's corrosiveness is being ratcheted up by the substation. So going with full PVC is better than having any iron in it at all. And so we believe, based on the soil conditions, this is the best option, yes.
Could you also change the fill? I mean, as you pull it out, can you put anything else in, gravel and sand and?
We always, when you do a PVC water main, you always have to backfill with sand. The standard specifications for a PVC water main require that every 6 inches be backfilled and compacted with sand.
Lining the main is out, is not an option?
I'm assuming that you mean like having, I've never seen it done on a water main.
Okay.
Usually sanitary sewer is where you line it, because
Yeah.
it's not under pressure, and you have to pull a pig through, you have to pull something through, and you have to leave that material inside it that it lines,
Laid
fills
it,
the,
yeah.
that's normally what you do in a sanitary sewer. Then you have to have a little machine that comes down and cuts all the holes in where all the fluids drain into it, because it basically seals it all up, and finding water mains is really tough. And so and based on the way this water main is performing, I don't know that it would help.
Okay,
So I recommend going with a PVC water main.
all right.
And it would be unique, because I've never seen them line a water one before, but I don't know if they do it or not.
I don't either. Ed, you got anything?
No.
No.
Call a roll, please. Or did you have something, Steve? Call a roll, please.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich? Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Item G is discussion and decision on the memorandum of understanding, Lake Mills Golf LLC.
Oops, we missed F.
There isn't one.
There is
Oh, that
no-
one got taken off? All right.
Yeah.
So this is motion 15-5-1-3. Misty, if you would.
Motion 15-5-1-3, approving memorandum of understanding, Lake Mills Golf. Whereas the City Council of the City of Lake Mills has reviewed the claim submitted by Lake Mills Golf LLC concerning an excessive property assessment, and whereas the council has received staff comments and recommendations concerning the settlement of that claim, and whereas the council has reviewed the memorandum of understanding concerning the conditions under which the claim for excessive assessment would be withdrawn, be it therefore moved this 5th day of May, 2015, by the City of Lake Mills Council, that the City Council does hereby direct the city manager to execute the memorandum of understanding and to distribute it to the city assessor and city attorney for their records and any follow-up actions concerning the administration for the memorandum of understanding.
Council, would you elaborate, or?
Okay, as you saw in your packet, there was a claim for excessive assessment by the golf course. They did go to board of review last year, which is part of the normal process if you think your assessment is too high. And the assessment was quite a bit higher than what the current assessment is for 2015. And the assessor recommended that with the lower assessment that he's come up with for the property going forward, that should be the assessment, and that if something should trigger a future valuation of it, the assessment would go up, but under this memorandum of understanding, the property owner and his attorney is willing to withdraw their claim against the city. What it basically does is settles it before it becomes a lawsuit. And I recommend that the memorandum of understanding be approved.
Very well. Any questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Was there a motion? And second.
I thought there was.
There's a motion in the packet.
Motion 15.
I'll second it.
In a second, sorry. Got ahead of myself.
Think about that.
Yeah, me too. Now you can call the vote.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Okay. Resolution 15-14, city iPad policy. Misty, if you would.
Resolution 15-14, approving city iPad policy. Whereas Lake Mills City Council members are committed to policies that set forth the basic framework for the overall management of the city, and whereas these policies are designed to establish a framework for providing quality services to the community in an efficient and effective manner, and whereas council desires to establish a policy to set forth procedures to be followed with respect to city-owned iPads, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills that the council approves the attached city iPad policy, and the city staff is directed to implement the policy.
And do I hear a motion of acceptance?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Misty, this one's yours, right?
It is. This is a policy so that we can get moving forward with the iPad released to the rest of the council and
Save
staff.
the forest.
Save the forest, going electronic.
Seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in that was. It's meant for business, be used for business.
Ed, you have anything?
No.
Steve? Mike?
Nope.
Call the vote, please.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich? Motion passed 4-0.
Resolution 15-15, withdrawing from the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System and partnering with the Waukesha County Federated Library System. Misty, if you would. Again, just skip the executive summary.
Resolution number 15-15, withdrawing from the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System and partnering with the Waukesha County Federated Library System. Whereas the City of Lake Mills, through its membership in the Jefferson County Library Service, is currently a member of the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System, which consists of the counties of Jefferson, Dodge, and Washington. And whereas the Jefferson County municipalities that participate in the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System through the Jefferson County Library Service are Fort Atkinson, Jefferson, Johnson Creek, Lake Mills, Palmyra, Waterloo, Watertown, and Whitewater. And whereas the Jefferson County Library System Review Committee, consisting of Jefferson County Library Board members and municipal librarians, conducted a review of its current library system affiliation and also looked at what services other library systems could provide and the costs associated for such services. And whereas the Jefferson County Library System Review Committee determined that joining the Waukesha County Federated Library System will provide the municipalities that are participating in the Jefferson County Library Service with the most cost-effective and best available library resources. And whereas the Jefferson County Library System Review Committee has recommended that the Jefferson County Library Service withdraw its membership in the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System and join the Waukesha County Federated Library System. And whereas, in order to accomplish this, approval is required from the governing bodies of participating municipalities that contain at least 80% of the population of participating municipalities in the county, Section 43.18, Sub 1, Sub AR, Wisconsin Stats. And whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors will hold a public hearing at its May 12, 2015 meeting and make a decision on whether or not to transition to the Waukesha County Federated Library System. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Lake Mills hereby approves of the Jefferson County Library Service withdrawing its membership from the Mid-Wisconsin Federated Library System and joining the Waukesha County Federated Library System. Be it further resolved that the city clerk is directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Jefferson County Administrator and to the Jefferson County Library Board.
And we'll hear a motion of adoption of Resolution 15-15. And a second, please.
Second.
Ed, you want to are you up on this one?
Yeah, this was, and we have Gerard here, the director, if there's any new developments, he could speak to it. Gerard, do we have anything new from when you last were before the council?
No.
That's a quick answer on a long night. No, I mean, it was unanimous by the board, library board, to go ahead and do this for the reasons that were outlined in the information that we had. And being on the library board, it's the right direction to go.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, please.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich? Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Thanks, Gerard, for being here for that long answer. No, that's quite all right.
Okay. This is Resolution 15-16, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $1,505,000 for street improvement projects, and this was on the capital budget, right?
And a
Yes.
quick question for Steve. All of these in the memo you gave us, that outlined all of them, the overlay memo? They're all within the budget that we've
Yes,
planned. Nothing exceeds the budget.
nothing.
Okay.
It's kind of it's, state statute says that one of them has to designate the total amount. Then you have to break it out into each subcategory. So you got ones for streets, you got one for river, which is the dam. You got one for stormwater, and you go through it, you have to break it all out, and then those groups should add up to the final one, which is the total. And Phil Cosson, with Ellers, our financial advisor, is here to tell us how that works.
There he is.
Thank you. Good evening. Phil Costin again with Ellers and Associates. And I have really agenda items, it looks like J through O. As Administrator Wilkie just said, these are all broken out separately due to federal tax law, essentially. And whenever you issue municipal bonds, and bonds are anything over 10 years amortization, you have to have these breakouts by purpose. and then brought back together under item O. I also will note that item N, again, when you issue municipal bonds, you're required to actually publish a notice to the electors, making sure that they are aware that you are going through this process. So that's why you see so many resolutions on your agenda tonight. Prior to tonight's meeting, I did hand out a document. I understand you're trying to go paperless. We'll get there eventually as well. We work for a lot of communities that have large paper mills, so we feel obligated. We feel obligated still to hand deliver paper. I know it's not the wave, but you know. So Jim Mann had really put together this financing packet. Jim is at another meeting tonight and asked me to pinch hit. We did prepare 3 different options for your consideration. All have the exact same dollar amount. What we're asking you to look at is the term of the loan and the structure of the loan. Those are really the differences that we are looking at. So the option 1 and option 2 finance these capital projects over a 20-year period. Option 3 finances it over a 15-year period. The difference between options 1 and 2 are the structure of the debt, where option 1 looks at a pretty level principal and interest payment going forward, and option 2 tailors the principal payment to wrap around your existing debt, and by doing so, really mitigates some of the tax impact of this capital borrowing. So that's a summary, a quick summary of what's going on. There's a lot of numbers involved and that we have as far as the attachments, and I'm more than happy to go through those with you if you would like. I will point you to this page 2, and again, this is the capital project list on page 2. It's the street reconstruction, park and recreation, DPW facility, storm sewers, and dam refurbishment. Again, the projects that were in your capital list and that are represented in the different agenda items that you have in front of you. The amount that you would be authorizing, again, is $3,545,000 in general obligation bonds. Again, either option 1, 2, or 3. Any of those options will still be a bond issue. What we've put together in these scenarios, which are on the next 3 pages, I'm just going to have you focus. There's a lot of numbers here, and I'm going to have you focus really on one number, one column of numbers on each page. If you look at, I'm on page 3, which is the first schedule. This is option 1, which is again a 20-year financing with relatively level principal and interest payments. And if you look at that page, you look at the second column from the right, you can see where it says tax rate. Now that's tax rate for debt. That's your existing obligations that fall to the levy plus this issue. And what we're trying to show you in this example for each option is what will happen for the tax rate for debt under each scenario. And that's what drove some of these options that we presented to you. So if you look at where you are in 2015, you're at $2.31 per thousand. Now that was part of your 2015 budget. Under option 1, again with a more level principal and interest payment, that jumps up to $2. My eyesight's going.
68.
Thank you, Steve. $2.68. It's a little dark over here. $2.68, and then it drops to $2.50, and then it really drops off. And that gets to one of the questions of the earlier discussion, and that is, can we afford to do this? So the projects will see a little bit of an increase in tax rate for debt if you finance it under option number 1 for a couple of years, and then you'll see that actually drop off pretty significantly as you pay down your debt. Option 2, again, 20-year financing, and we've tailored, again, the first couple of years' principal payments to be a little bit reduced to again, soften that impact on the tax rate. So if you look at that same column, you go from $2.31 to $2.53, and then $2.49, and then drop off. So all we're really doing, again, is trying to soften the blow a little bit when it comes to the tax rate for debt. And then the final option, option 3, really looks at financing this over a shorter period. Same dollar amount, again, a little bit of a tailored debt schedule, but financing it over 15 years. Think of it as financing a home over 15 years or 30 years. You know, we looked at a 20-year option. This is a 15-year option. You pay less in interest, obviously, over that time. And you can see the impact is also felt in the tax rate, at least in those initial years, because you're paying less in interest. You're shortening up the life of the debt. So $2.31 to $2.41 to $2.37, and then dropping off. When we look at the 3 options, and we look at just that column, the tax rate for debt, and you can see the significant drop-off going forward, we see this as a viable financing to be done over 15 years. We don't see that you need to stretch it out over 20 years and pay that extra interest if need be. So we looked at option 3 or option 2 as the more viable options. Mitigates some of the tax impact, and it also shortens up the debt in option 3's case, and you pay a little bit less in interest as a result of that. The other part of it that we don't really reference in here in the memo is that, shortening up the debt issue actually makes the debt issue more attractive to bidders when you do go out and sell bonds. So there's a little bit of a benefit there that could be realized as well as a result of potentially additional bidders coming in. There's more appetite from banks and underwriting firms to buy bonds that have a shorter maturity. And so option 3 would accomplish that as well. So if you want to proceed with these resolutions, we would ask that you give us a recommendation as to which of the options you would prefer as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Actually, when are we looking at putting them out for bid? Do we have a date or?
We had scheduled for your first Tuesday in June, June 2nd, as the target date. But if for whatever reason you want to see that pushed back, we could certainly make the June 16th date work as well. So we had originally targeted for June 2nd. So you would, in that scenario, you would receive funds by the end of June.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Good. Misty, would you read the resolution, please?
We're going through, first we need to have an option.
Our preference
So
would
I
be
would,
option.
from my perspective, I think that the 15-year would be, according to that's what you're recommending, the 15-year, and I would agree with that.
We have to go through resolution 15, 16 first, and then go through them, because the last one would be
Yeah, the last one, we'll have to save that.
It's the last one? Okay. I didn't know where it was, first or end. Okay.
Resolution number 15-16. Initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,505,000 for street improvement projects. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,505,000 for the public purpose of financing street improvement projects.
And again, all these were on the part of the capital budget for this year. So, make a motion, if you would,
move to pass resolution 15, 16.
and a second.
I'll second.
Any
I
comments?
did want to note that we aren't doing $1,500,000 worth of streets. It broke it out in that memo there that 767,000 is the streets part of the remodel of the DPW building.
Right.
And then the rest is street work.
Anything else? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Resolution 15-17, Misty, would you just go ahead and read it?
Resolution 15-17, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,480,000 for parks and public grounds projects. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 Wisconsin statutes general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $1,480,000 for the public purpose of financing parks and public grounds projects.
Do we have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? This is for the Parks building, right?
Building.
Yeah. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Resolution 15-18.
Resolution 15-18, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for storm sewer projects. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 Wisconsin statutes general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for the public purpose of financing sewerage projects consisting of storm sewer improvements.
And do I have a motion of adoption?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Discussion on this one? Again, this is all part of the capital budget. So, Misty, would you call the roll?
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
This is Resolution 15-19. Misty, if you would, please.
Resolution 15-19, initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $360,000 for river improvements. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 Wisconsin statutes general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $360,000 for the public purpose of financing river improvements consisting of a dam replacement project.
And a motion of adoption, please.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
This one threw me off when I saw river improvements. I'm like, "Ooh, is that a river?"
Well, that, it wasn't a lake improvement, and it didn't
Yeah.
find the closest thing that we,
Yep.
I spent 2 hours in Cincinnati trying to figure out where these categories were going.
So this is for the dam project.
Yes.
So, Misty, if you'd call the vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Resolution 15-20. Misty, if you could still read.
Resolution 15-20, resolution directing publication of notice to electors relating to bond issues. Whereas initial resolutions authorizing general obligation bonds have been adopted by the City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, and it is now necessary that said initial resolutions be published to afford notice to the residents of the city of their adoption. Now therefore be it resolved that the city clerk shall, within 15 days, publish a notice to the electors in substantially the form attached hereto in the official city newspaper as a Class 1 notice under Chapter 985 Wisconsin Stats.
And the,
I'll make a motion to adopt 15-20.
and a second.
Second.
Excuse me. Any discussion? This is required by law. Misty, if you would.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
And finally, 15-21.
Just one moment.
I guess,
Title?
yeah, just read the title.
Title?
Is that
Resol-
okay, council?
probably the title plus maybe the first several whereases before you get to the now therefore, so that people know what it's about, should be sufficient, because this will have to be published in the newspaper.
Okay. So do the whereas and stop at the therefore.
Sure. Resolution 15-21, resolution providing for the sale of 3,545,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2015A. Whereas the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, has adopted initial resolutions authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the following public purposes and in the following amounts: $1,505,000 for street improvement projects, $1,480,000 for parks and public grounds projects, $200,000 for sewerage projects consisting of storm sewer improvements, and $360,000 for river improvements. Whereas the City Council hereby finds and determines that the projects are within the city's powers to undertake and therefore serve a public purpose as that term is defined in Section 67.04 Sub 1 Sub B Wisconsin statutes. And whereas the City Council of the city hereby finds and determines that general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $3,545,000 should be issued pursuant to the initial resolutions.
I have a question for council. Is this where we need to amend it to say that it would be options 1, 2, or 3 as presented by financial counsel?
I don't know that you have to amend this resolution. I believe that the consultant is agreeing with me that you just need to tell him so that he knows in what fashion to advertise it for sale.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
And Elizabeth, what say ye?
Are you asking about the 3 options?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see this memo until today, so in what I have been able to look at it, I like the idea of tailoring around our existing debt. The shorter term is very attractive. So those are the 2 options that I think are very good for the city. And in my initial discussion with Steve, I think he agrees that a shorter term is an attractive one.
The interest rate will be lower because it's one
Yeah.
of the bonds are easier to sell, we'll pay less interest. And you saw the tax rate was lower than the other one, so I don't know where we lose.
Sure. Ed?
I'm for the 15.
15.
Okay.
Option 3.
That's all I need.
Option 3.
Okay, great. Thank you
Go
very
forth,
much.
Make us proud.
All right, we'll try. Thank you.
I guess we need to vote on this one.
Yep.
I made the
15.
motion. Did we have a second on it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mike second.
Okay.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
Okay, ordinance 1145, this is item P. This is the Class B wine-only winery license fee. This is the 3rd reading. Go ahead and read it.
Ordinance 1145, Class B wine-only winery license fees. The City Council of the City of Lake Mills, Jefferson County, Wisconsin, does ordain as follows. Section 1, Section 3-1-2-C, Classes of Licenses, Fees of the Lake Mills Municipal Code is hereby amended by adding the following. Class B wine-only winery license, $100 per year. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent with or contravening the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage and publication.
And do we have a motion of acceptance of ordinance?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Right? Mr. Lewis is here tonight, and so why don't you want to explain a little bit about why we're doing this?
The current ordinances don't reflect what fee to charge for the license, and we place the $100 fee to be consistent with other licenses that were similar. It's mostly housekeeping, so that we know what to charge for the license.
And when we talked about this on the first reading, that it seemed fair that $100 was what was being requested of other, or required by other, like alcoholic vendors, so.
Yeah, I believe it's the Class C wine license, if I remember right, is 100, and the beer-only license, I believe, is 100. It's just you wouldn't be put into the liquor category, which is a lot more expensive.
Call the vote, please.
Mr. Shar?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Grundon?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkovich? Motion passed 4-0.
Ordinance 1146. This, just read the title. This is the second reading.
Ordinance 1146, amending parking regulations, Oak Street.
And that'll go to the third reading. And ordinance 1147. Just read the title on that. It's the second reading.
Ordinance 1147, amending Lake Mills Elementary School parking zones and no parking areas.
And this will go on to the third reading. And recommendations for future agendas. Ed, you had one?
No, I just suggested a budget work session and then,
First impressions.
first impressions. Well, that's May 27th, that's already set.
Right, the first impression's been set.
Okay. I thought we had something else that we wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too, but I remember saying something. Roll the tape.
I put the Oak Street post office parking one on.
Right. Okay, well, if hearing none, or a motion to adjourn,
You got the power to adjourn it, sir.
we shall adjourn. Done.